Nigel Farage, how exciting, your life and times. You definitely have a political legacy. I just want to start by asking you, because we're nearly at the end of the Conservative leadership race, if you were a Conservative Party member, who would you vote for?
Oh, if I backed net zero and open borders and high taxation, who would I back? I mean, I wouldn't be a Conservative member. They've given up, they're not Conservative. Truss is the least worst. And I think the fact that she's prepared to say things that are a bit out there and a bit risky, if they're going to get the country out of the mess we're in, it's going to need some unconventional thinking. So she's the least worst candidate.
Well, talking of unconventional thinking, when you first started talking about leaving the European Union, it was totally fringe. Just wasn't really on the political agenda. What makes leaving the European Union your life's mission? It was very unusual.
It does seem bonkers, doesn't it? Because at the time, you know, I had a very good job. I just set my own company up, started to make some real money, playing good golf, going to the pub on Sundays.
Just on Sundays?
The church had lost out by then. And, you know, no, life was going very, very well. And suddenly, this became my mission. It was really exchange rate mechanism. It was pegging sterling effectively against the Deutschmark, seeing record house repossessions, record business bankruptcies. And when I talked to people, both Labour and Conservative politicians at the time, and I met them for lunch to find out more, I'd meet quite a few who agreed with me. And I'd say, well, why don't you say so? Oh, well, it's all too difficult. And I thought, well, what a cowardly lot we've got. I also realised that in my little village in Kent, people felt very differently to what I'd read in the Times newspaper or see on the BBC. And I could see then there was a massive gap between the two. And what really sealed it for me was clever chap said to me, no free people in the history of mankind have ever willingly given up the right to govern themselves. And that sealed the deal for me. Someone's got to do this. So we had a by-election was caused because the Conservative Member of Parliament for Eastleigh died in somewhat strange circumstances. There was a by-election. UKIP had been founded 6 weeks before. And I put my hand up and said, I am that soldier. So I stood in the by-election, having never stood for anything before. And I got 1,000 votes. It wasn't very many, but I just enjoyed it. I loved it. And so I kept on going. And even though, as the years went by, it was having a very detrimental effect on my life, be it business life, family life, financial life, it just became my mission. And I would say in the end, why did I keep going for all those years? Sheer bloody mindedness.
We're out of the European Union. If the result had been 52-48 Remain, would you have let it lie?
I think had it been that, there'd have been no debate about a second referendum. None of it. It would have been absolutely dead and buried. I would have faced a very big choice at that moment, what to do. Either walk away and say you did your best, you got a referendum, it would never have happened without you, or to politically, you know, establish UKIP as the independence party to fight the next election and probably to get millions more votes than we even got in 2015. I don't know what I would have done. I honestly don't know what I would have done. But it would have been very difficult. It would have been very difficult. You know, I mean, you wouldn't have had people in the House of Commons calling for a second referendum.
No, I agree with you.
You know, it would have been done. So I think the reality is I would have walked away.
Wow. In 2006, we're talking about UKIP now, David Cameron, the leader of the Tory party, described your former party, UKIP, as fruitcakes, loonies and closet racists. Let's take fruitcakes and loonies together to start with. Well,
I loved it because 2 years before, Michael Howard had said we were cranks and gadflies. And so I'd immediately formed the Gadfly Club, a dining club, and made myself honorary life president. As soon as Cameron did that, we had fruitcake parties and thoroughly, and, you know, enjoy. I mean, you know, if you abuse an Englishman, he'll often pick it up and wear it as a badge of honour. The closet racist thing, I was a bit upset about it at the time. But you begin to learn that if people haven't got an argument to put against you, they just throw insults. And those insults, if those insults don't stick, then they do you no harm.
many people in the country love you. Many people in the country loathe you. I suppose those that loathe you, they say you're a xenophobe, that you sow the seeds of division. Obviously, I certainly wouldn't say that about wanting to leave the European Union. That's a completely legitimate thing. The hatred that you get, does it? Some of it must affect you.
Well, it's funny. You see, I mean, if you meet a Times reader, you know, I mean, the Times were probably consistently the nastiest newspaper to me. I mean, absolutely vile. The sneerocracy of the Times, the sort of the Matthew Paris's, the "oh, we're so superior to you and everybody else's." When I meet Times readers now, they say, "oh, well, actually, you're not quite what I imagined you to be." So there are ways that you can diffuse some of this. Look, the hard, liberal, globalist types who see the European Union really as a beginning for a sort of greater world government, who don't believe in national identities or national borders. I am the enemy. Boris never was. I mean, they all knew Boris didn't really believe in any of it. You know, I was, and I still am. I still am. And I'm quite surprised all these years on at how much hatred I still get today in the street.
Give me an example of the hatred you might get today.
I mean, last Monday, I was on an aeroplane coming back from, I'd been in Europe for the weekend, in Europe, outside the European Union, but in Europe. And, you know, I'm on an aeroplane and there's a young guy there, sort of studenty type. He looked fairly scruffy, so he must have been. And, you know, I mean, really getting abuse on the plane, really getting abuse. I just said, look, son, you've had your say, sit down, shut up, or I'll make sure Transport Police delay your journey home. That was one example. The week before, I was coming out of the GBNews studios. There was a young couple there. Oh, they want to kill me, smash my head in. I mean, so it's still there every day. It's still there every day from that particular group. I mean, to some extent, it's not their fault. They've been brainwashed at university. They have not been taught critical thinking. They've not been taught...
You're not taught to abuse people at university.
Well, in a way they are, because a lack of critical thinking means rather than respecting the fact that somebody else has a different point of view, you believe that your view is virtuous and the other view is evil. So in a sense, this indoctrination of our kids is breeding much of this behaviour. Does it bother me? Not a lot.
Does it bother your children?
Yes. And that's hard. And that's hard. Look at my surname. There aren't many of us. It's a very, very unusual surname. No more than 25 of us living in the entire United Kingdom. So, yeah, it's you know, it's not been easy for them, and they've had to grow up pretty quickly and learn to deal with it. But, yeah, not easy. And I feel... You know, what we bring upon ourselves in life is what we bring upon us. And we all do stupid things, or we all do good things, or we do whatever we do, and we live with the consequences. The fact that what you do affects all those around you is something that I have some guilt about, yes.
Have you ever felt frightened when people are abusing you?
I think when there's a mob of several hundred people...
Has there been?
Oh, many times. Many times. And if there's a mob of several hundred people and you're in a car trying to get through and they're all banging on the roofs, I mean, you'd... Thoughtful. I'm never going to admit to being scared, but thoughtful. So I wouldn't give them the pleasure of admitting it, even if it was true.
Just a personal question at the as it's gone so quickly. I read that your dad, who's still with us.
Yeah.
Lovely. I read, I don't know if this is true, that he was an alcoholic.
Yeah, he had big drink problems, but he packed it up in 1971 and went on and had a successful life and successful career. And, you know, what family doesn't have a problem at some point with somebody? You know, I've got 4 kids. I've seen all sorts of problems with them as they've grown up. So, yeah, but I mean, and some of the press try to make great play of this. And the insinuation wasn't it, you know, that Nigel was drunk all the time. It was really funny. So it was the Mail. The Mail were paying photographers 300 quid to get a picture of Nigel in a Westminster pub with a pint. So these pictures kept appearing in the Mail of me with a drink. And of course, classic PR advice would be never appear in a pub, never be seen with a drink. I just thought, no. We're going to turn this round the other way. I am. It wasn't an invention, because at, you know, 5 o'clock I quite like going with the staff for a drink. And I then thought, no, I'm going to turn this the other way. I'm going to say, right, boom, you know, we'll do our press conferences in pubs or whatever we'll do. And actually, it did me no harm at all. Did me no, because do you know what ordinary folk do? They work and they go out on a Friday night for a drink. It's what ordinary folk do. It's what I've always done. It wasn't a media or PR creation, but it was their attempt to demonise me that actually turned into a big positive.
And final question. So when I was an MP, you did Question Time all the time, but I happened to do it twice while I was an MP. I wasn't very good at it, so I stopped doing it. But you were on the panel both times.
Yeah.
And you know, you sort of go in and well, I did, and I felt a bit anxious and trembly. And in the green room, before you go on, there's alcohol. And I thought, oh, God, there's no way I can touch that. Now you were, you know, getting stuck in. And I was thinking, oh my God, I mean, is it going to be okay? And you were absolutely word perfect. And, you know, probably demolished all of us, to be honest, on the panel. But I mean, that's a superpower.
Well, it's also psychological, isn't it? Because in the green room, there is gamesmanship going on. There is who has got the upper hand, who is frightened of who. And I learned really early on with Question Time that you walk into a green room, never get there early, be the last to arrive, make lots of noise, make a bit of an entrance, you know. And when they offer you a drink, rather than a cup of tea, you know, ask for a proper drink, say it loudly, look at the rest of the panel, and you're saying to them, do you know what, I don't care. I'm not frightened of you. I couldn't care less. I'm going to enjoy this. And I think it makes the fact that I seem so relaxed, the fact that I'm having a drink, the fact that I'm chatting to all the staff and enjoying myself, I think it puts the fear of God into the others.
I could have talked to you for a lot longer than this, Nigel.
I wish you had.
Nigel Farage, you certainly have left a legacy on our politics, and that's why so interested to hear your life and times. Thank you.
Thank you.